Okay then, I think we're ready to put this axle assembly back in. Sorry for the fan noise, but we're going to have to leave that on. It's a little too hot in here to not have a fan. So I took some time to take those bearing blocks and make sure that they fit well and got them where they fit the best, because you have outer, outer, inner, inner, so you can swap the inners and you can swap the outers. So I think they're all pretty good to go now. So this thing is just going to be just basically a chore of lifting this thing in here, which is not bad, but you have the locking differential actuator which has to go in with it, so it's kind of where I need 3 hands basically, but we'll do the best we can with it. Okay, that's it. That's all. Don't have any burn. It really came from somewhere, I guess, when I set it down. I wish I hadn't had to do that. So I was really concerned about these axle blocks, bearing blocks fitting in here flush, but I think they're going to be okay, so that's fine. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, do not forget, if your mower has a locking differential with a pedal up there, make sure you don't forget this thing, because if you forget it, put it all together, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have to come back and redo it again. So. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Looks like it's fit pretty good. Pretty satisfied with that. So now then, I'm going to take you down off the stand. Look at this a little closer. What we're doing here. Off the stand. Okay, so where we have to put our sealant is this spot right here, all the way across, right here, all the way across, and right here, all the way across, and right here, all the way across. And you saw earlier, this is what I'm using. This stuff's pretty good stuff. This Ultimate Gray. This is what you use. A lot of foreign car manufacturers use this on their valve cover ends and stuff like that. So it's very good stuff. Use what you want to use. Whatever you think works good. I think it should all do a good job. But okay, we're in with this thing, and I'm going to do a little bit more cleaning up. And don't forget, you got to put this guy in up here, little spur gear thing. But it doesn't, you don't have to worry about any kind of seal or anything here, because it doesn't go. It's not external. So the big thing on these is to keep this thing from leaking out into the axle tubes. I haven't dealt with these enough to decide for myself if this is a good design or not, but personally I don't think so. But hey, so these things, you see there's a lot of grease here. I kind of just put some extra on the inboard side of this seal that's on the inner seal for no other reason, just to kind of keep it lubricated if the axle kind of moves in and out. And you pack these are the, ouch, something in there stuck me. These are the roller bearings, so they're lubricated just by grease. So you pack these things as much as you can pack them. And these bearings, of course, are lubricated by the gear oil, the transmission oil is what it is. This thing runs off engine oil. I know they call it something like, what do they call it? Hydro drive, hydro fluid, fluid drive, dry fluid, something like that. But this is all it is, just motor oil. Now that's not for every Cub Cadet, so you need to make sure when you work on one that you know what it takes. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my I made a couple studs up. I think I dropped one over here. Yes, I did. Clean that up some. But that's one of my, I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. There's the other one here. You couldn't find two that were the same length, so oh well. Anyway, let's see what I want. I want to do that there. Yeah, that'll be alright. As I told you earlier, this thing is going to be a chore to get together, trying to hold this and not mess the sealer up. So what I decided to do is make myself a couple guide pins here. So I just took a couple bolts and cut them off, and that way I can hang all this stuff like this gasket and then the plate and then the gasket over it, and then start the bolts in, and I'm not having to fool this thing and move, risk it scrubbing this sealer where it doesn't need to be, because I don't trust this thing at all. I think it's just a trouble, capital T. But anyway, let me get my sealer on there and we'll be ready to start laying these gaskets in. Height. Okay, this is how the book shows to do this. 2 strips on each side there where the bearing block meets the axle housing. So that's what we did. That's all the sealer you put on this thing, anywhere. So we'll proceed. We're going to hang our first gasket right now. First gasket's in place. Make sure you know which way it goes properly before you put it on, because you got sealer back there. Right. Next step, the plate is on. Now it's time to put the outer gasket on. Okay, the outer gasket is in place. We're ready to put the pan on, which is right here. Now, one thing to remember is the orientation of the pan. The pan goes with the filter tube grommet and the vent tube up. So you can do that. And also remember that you have 2 of these, they call these, I guess, stiffening blocks or whatever, but they are these things, and they go as such, about right here, and then this one on the left side. The instructions are a little bit vague on this. They say that it should be with the, always be with the bevel in, but you can't always put the bevel in, I don't think. Let's look and see. Okay, now I see, I remember now. This is the way it goes. You have to put this left side, you put with the round down, because that's the only way it fits, and then the right side you put with the rounded side upward. And what they mean is the bevel edge of this thing goes inside and down, bevel side down, which means towards that pan there. But you do that, and then also remember that you have 6 matching 1¼ inch bolts that's used specifically on these, and they are these here. Which one is this one here? Some here, because the rest of them are shorter, or only 1 inch, I think. Where's an inch for that? Yeah, this is magnetic. This thing fights me, but see, there's a difference in the length of them there. So trust me, there's a difference. So you should have 6 for the sides here. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 regular bolts. So you do not, you can put these in now, but you do not tighten them down yet. You can snug them, just don't tighten them. So I'm going to go ahead and hang the pan. I've cleaned the pan up, made sure of that. So we'll check it. Yeah, looks good. So we'll just go ahead and carefully hang this thing up here, like so. And then what I'm going to do is, well, it's going to be fun. A good thing I didn't put that stud in too far. It'll be fun to get that back out. But I'm going to go ahead and start bolts where I know that I'm not going to have to put the blocks on, which is like around the bottom. I'm just going to start running them in and get everything positioned. Then I can take these things out, put regular bolts there, and then I'll do my stiffening blocks over here. Yes, we are. We can do this. Okay then, so this is put back together. I have all the bolts back in, and all I did was I just snugged everything according to the service manual, snugged them down lightly, and then I started in a couple different increments. I think I went 35 the first time, somewhere in there, maybe 40 inch pounds on these bolts. And I did the ones with the brace first, the longer bolts, the braces, and I did those, and then I did the final, went to the outside ones and here in the pan only, and then I went to the final torque of 100 inch-pounds of torque. And so did that, and it seemed like they really took the torque well and held the torque. So then I progressed on to the outer plate bolts, did those, working my way out same way and all that. So I have one down here that's the threads have gone away on the housing, so I don't have a helicoil for it, and I'm not going to put one in it right now. I don't think that's going to be an issue, because ideally there's not supposed to be any kind of liquids in there to leak out anyway. So, and touched up a little bit of paint after put it back together. So I'm going to put on that lock and rear end lever there, it and its washers, 3 washers, and its bolt holds it together. And I'm going to start on the brakes, putting the brakes and all that, backing plates back, to put all that stuff back together, and then we're going to be done with this rear end. I'm moving on with it. I'm done. Not going to work on it again. If it leaks this time, it's just going to leak. So that's all there is to it. Because we did it by the book this time, and I think we did a good job. We'll see. I think we did. I got to put that fuel pump back on also. I had to get that out of the way. And then we're going to work our way forward. So, okay. You may wonder, you know, sometimes you see random things in people's videos and you wonder what's the story. Well, you may wonder why this floor mat's here. This is the floor mat out of my car, my Camry, one of the rear ones, and you can see nobody ever rides in that car in the back because this thing is like pristine. It was pristine until the other day I bought a gallon of weed killer. I'm constantly spraying weed killer up here, constantly. So I go through a lot of it. So I bought some pretty expensive stuff this time. Turned out it wasn't any better than any of the other stuff you can get commercially, you know, to the consumer grade stuff. They say it makes all kinds of gallons of it, but it doesn't. It's a lie. You have to almost run that stuff straight for it to really do any good. Anyway, so I had this stuff in the back floorboard, and I didn't think anything about it, and it turned over, and it was dripping out of the cap. The cap on those Ortho brand weed killer bottles does not close all the way tightly. Does not have a seal under it, I guess. It's supposed to, most likely, but it didn't. So it flooded the rear floor of my car with weed killer, herbicide, I guess. So I had to vacuum that all out and dry it out and take this thing out, rinse it out, and it still stinks awful. Like some sort of harsh chemicals. Is probably not good for me to be breathing it. So anyway, it's just one of those things you can't avoid. But anyway, that wasn't all of it this past week. I'll tell you more at the end of this video. I'm not going to interrupt it to tell you that, but it's pretty interesting. Right? Okay guys, let me go ahead and get cracking on this next part of this. Well, you know what they say, don't you? They said that this mower wasn't worth fixing. They said it's too old. They said it's a money pit. They said that I should just quit on this and either keep using that ragged out MTD back there that keeps breaking up and off and on and apart. And they said that I should just go to Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot and spend $3,000 on a big box riding mower that's not even as good as this one. That's what they said. You know what I said? I said no. So anyway, I have the carburetor back together on this. It seems to be working excellent now. And put everything back together, wheels back on, tires inflated, and I had to take the seat back off. I forgot to plug in the safety on the seat, so every time that I would try to let the brake off, the engine would try to quit. So I filled it up with hydro fluid, filled it up with gas. So I think hopefully we're going to get this thing out and take it out and drive it around on the yard and test it out a little bit. I haven't messed with the cooling system yet. I don't think this thing has it doesn't feel like it has a thermostat in it. It's already radiator's already hot, so that's okay for now. I'm not going to worry about that. And the cables need a little bit of work. This choke cable that I've already been working on, that thing doesn't work right. It's stripped up here, I guess, and the whole thing tries to move, so it's kind of hard to get the choke to activate. But anyway, enough of that. I don't fall out of it. Had to acclimate myself to the controls. I keep wanting to push my brake down over here. I don't have a brake. I have a brake here. Brake's on already because it's got the emergency brake on. I don't know if this thing's charging. The charge light doesn't work on it. The bulb's good, but the charge light doesn't work. So I'm gonna have to look into that. I hope if it's not charging that it's just a regulator. I don't have to pull the engine out of it, because it's got one of those alternator, stator alternator things at the back of the engine by the flywheel. Those don't normally go bad. The regulator actually is just right down there. So we'll figure that out. Drive around the yard, wouldn't it? See that. Thing stops, golly. Oh well. running with me on the These are valve adjustments, pretty bad. I'm gonna go get my meter and see if this thing's charging. Well, so it's charging, so that's good. Glad of that. I don't know why the light's not working. The light circuit, the way these warning lights work and the way that any warning light system normally works is all the lights that are back there, I have them labeled, that's why I say tape on them, but all the lights that are up there, they have a common power side to them, which means they all get 12 volts when you turn on the ignition switch, and then the other leg of the light circuit is the ground. So oil pressure, temperature, low fuel, and however you want to say. Really, I don't think the regulator works that way. Charging system, it's not a ground. It gets 12 volts fed to both sides of the light. So if the way the electric theory works, if both sides of the lamp there have 12 volts and it's not going to illuminate, there has to be power flow through it, meaning coming in and going out. So with 12 volts or so on both sides, it just balances out, no light. So when there is a deficit on one side of it, like at the regulator down there with the engine not running, so however that's going to be, then that's going to mean that there's power on one side of the light and then there is less than that amount on the other side, so it causes it to illuminate. It's really something if you want to learn more about it better than what I'm explaining it, and look into that if you want to. But anyway, it's not lighting up, so I'd say that there's something going on with this thing. No guarantees, but it was charging 14 volts, so I'm good with that. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the air cleaner and all that and get that ready to put back on. And here at some point soon I'm going to do a valve adjustment on it. I said it sounds a little bit clacky under there, so we'll do that. Just the valves on it. I think I got new valve cover gaskets also. So anyway, I want to really want to finish up on this thing because it's just been dragging out too long. So I don't think that I'm going to do the cooling system right now because since it doesn't have a thermostat in it, you know, it needs to have one. I mean, that's the way engines are designed to operate with one. But of course, with everything else rednecked on this thing, then it not having a thermostat's just right in line with that. You know, that's the redneck cooling system engineer cure for it. But I don't do that. I'm missing a bolt here too, looks like. But I think I'm just going to run it. The way it is, we only got about, I don't know, we've probably got, it's almost the middle of August now, so we've got maybe 2 months worth of mowing, and I can probably do just fine with it like that. I'll probably just sort of may alternate between that one and this one, just to kind of keep the stress off both of them. And then over the winter, I always say over the winter that I'm going to do everything, but as it always turns out, I usually only get about one thing done over the winter. But I like to, over the winter, just go ahead and, like I said, redo the cooling system, which means put the hoses and probably a new belt on. I got all that stuff. I just hadn't, you know, I'm just not going to do it right now. Thermostat gasket. and all that, and maybe spruce it up a little bit, but that's not on the top of the list. I know one thing I want to do for sure is get another rim for it, because this rim is rusted and it's bent. There's a definite bend in it. When I was putting air in, I noticed it had one in there. So anyway, what else I got to do? Got to get a seal for this thing. These tail lights. This actually does have tail lights and reverse lights. I need to see if those work. But anyway, they one side has got some homemade clamps on it. But everything seems to work otherwise. We'll look into the charging the regulator. I asked around about that. There's a couple of Cub Cadet forums, and excuse me, these cables need attention for sure. Well, the throttle cable works okay. I'm confused. I get confused which is which. I don't look. I need to make myself a little note up here, I guess, because this is all worn off. But deal with that, and then this PTO thing is going to have to be. I can't use it as a mower until the PTO is prepared, and that's this vacuum. That's this vacuum deal here. Boy, isn't this beautiful, man? That is just high class right there. You know, I get bored working on stuff like this sometimes because I don't find enough destruction and redneck engineering, and you know, if you're wondering what's happened here. Okay, this thing is a vacuum operated PTO. It's not an electric PTO. This mower does not have an electric PTO clutch on it like a lot of them do, where it just kicks in like an air conditioning compressor on a car. This one doesn't have that. This has got a better idea in my estimation. But what happens is this is the bracket here. This bracket does not move. It's made into the mower. And this thing in here that's got duct tape all over is a vacuum diaphragm, and it has a lever on the end of it. And what happens normally is when you engage it, it's got electrical connector there. So you've got a PTO switch up here. Turns on and off, supposed to. Just electric. That's all it is. Kind of acts like it's broken, but oh, there it is. But somebody broke the lever off of it. I got to put that back on it. But anyway, so what happens is when you're ready to mow with it, it activates this thing, and there's a vacuum switch in here, vacuum solenoid, I guess, and this runs right off the engine vacuum just like the car. And when you flip that switch up there, it draws this thing in, and then it pulls on that lever, and let's see, there's a big pulley on it right now. Tree fell. Big lever on there. It looks like that thing's partially engaged. I need to probably disengage that for right now. I'm gonna have to anyway because I gotta get one of these. But that's how it works. And then you flip the lever off, and it activates a dump switch here, so it just vents the vacuum out and no longer activates it. It's a pretty neat deal. It's easy to work on. It's not, you know, some of these mowers have that electric PTO and it's buried somewhere, or it's expensive, and this thing is not cheap. And I don't know how easy they are to find. They are out there, but it's probably a $100 bill at least for one of these. But anyway, that's how it works. And someone has, you know, when I see stuff like this, I think, well, this is like if Cookie Monster worked on a lawnmower, or a child. You know, like give a kid a lawnmower to work on and tell him to fix it. And there's nothing against the kid, it's just how kids are. You know, kids see things differently from most adults, I guess. But anyway, instead of just looking at this and saying, okay, that's broken, it's junk, I have to take it off and repair it, or replace it rather. Well, their idea was, well, just duct tape it. That'll fix it. And then when that didn't fix it, because duct tape does not fix a broken vacuum diagram, no matter how much you put on it, it's a dumb idea, it doesn't work. It's not ever going to work. It's not ever going to work. Okay? I don't know how many people are going to ever see this video, but all of you, remember, it does not work. Okay? Don't do it. It's stupid. You know, there's a time comes you have to quit coddling people and being polite about it. It does not work. So anyway, they tried that, failed at that attempt of it, and then so their next attempt was, okay, well that didn't work, let's just take a coat hanger, and that's what that is. That's a piece of a coat hanger, and let's just engage the thing all the time so the mower will run, the mower deck will run all the time. I'll get back on it and I'll mow and I'll be happy and everything's fine. So that's what I'm saying about Cookie Monster. Cookie Monster only thinks like one train of thought. He's like, oh, you want cookie? You want cookie? So this person, obviously, you know, they're too cheap to fix anything. They're just like Uncle Phil. They're too cheap to ever fix anything the right way. So, all they thought was, me want mower deck to run. Me want mower. Me want mower to run. So that's what they did. And so it runs. So, okay. You know, I don't know. I don't understand people sometimes, man. It's like the law of averages. Like these people that do the worst stuff like this, it's like somehow they still succeed and make it work, even though it's dangerous and probably could destroy something. You know, they just, I don't know. They say sometimes they say dumb people get hurt last. I don't know, but and you know the thing about, let's just speak just for a minute or so about this thing I said about Uncle Phil. You know, here's the thing. It's all about an allocation of money. What is? I know that. It's not that you don't have the money. It's that fun when you're, especially when you don't have an unlimited amount of money. It's like the first thing happens with anybody like that, is that the first thing you pay is anything that's fun. You spend your money on fun stuff first. Remember that. So cell phone and cigarettes and beer and tobacco and all that good stuff and animal food comes first. Anyhow, any kind of money you have every month, remember that. Probably the two top ones of those would be a cell phone and cigarettes, and then booze. So, you know, and then it's like you don't want to save, you don't want to do without one of those to fix something like this properly. So that's what they do too. So anyway, okay, I'm going to quit yammering. I got to get some videos put up because I'm behind. I've been just swamped for work. So I'm going to get cleaning on that air cleaner and do that. Let this thing cool down. I may go ahead and just do the valves too on it. It sounded just a little bit loose. So yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching and joining me on getting this thing back together. I know it's been kind of a drawn out process and probably not the most interesting thing, but you know, don't give up on stuff like this. Even though things get abused and people that shouldn't own stuff like this end up with them and tear them up. You know, if you're fairly mechanically inclined, you can fix stuff like this and save money. You know, this mower was, I think this mower was about $6,200 new in $1998, which that would be about, what would it be about now? Probably about $7,500, something like that. So it's a very expensive mower, and you know, yeah. So, all right. Okay, that's what we got to do next. We got to finish this car up. This thing's been languishing in there, poor old thing. I meant to have it out running and driving it this summer, but that didn't happen. So I got to finish up, got to get the glass in it and finish some detail on the interior, and then it's going to be ready to hit the road again. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to try to go ahead and just get all these videos up on this thing. This thing, I got to check through the deck. I did some videos on the deck, and I'll put those up here pretty soon. Deck was in pretty good shape. Had a couple of issues, but we'll see what that was. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.